Hello, and welcome to our specialized tutorial about working with PDF files. In this video, we'll take a look at specific methods of extracting data from this widely popular file format. Whether in native text format or as scanned images, UiPath allows you to navigate, identify, and use PDF data however you may need. Before we go on, you should already be familiar with extracting data and how to use and edit selectors. For both of these subjects, there are separate videos that go into much further details, so make sure you check these in case you don't fully understand something along the way. To start things off, first make sure you have all the actions and dependencies required for working with PDF files. If a simple search in the Activities panel comes out empty, it means you have to install them. Simply go to the Package Manager, search for PDF, and install the UiPath PDF Activities package. Great. Moving on, you're probably aware of the fact that PDF files can contain text, images, and sometimes text that are actually undercover images. A basic method of identifying which is by simply selecting the elements you're interested in. As you can see, text can be easily selected, while images are immediately apparent as blocks. Later on, we'll see with how to deal with both situations. UiPath has various activities and methods for all your PDF needs, and we split them into two categories by their intended use. The first category for larger chunks of text or whole documents, and the other for extracting specific text items from a PDF file, like a name, a product, an invoice value, and so on. We'll start with the first category since it's the easiest. For reading whole PDF documents or pages, you can use the Read PDF Text activity. It's pretty straightforward. Choose the file to be read and the action will output a text variable with the contents of the file. We'll save the result as a text file and also show it in a message box, but you could use other string operations to modify or extract information out of the generated text. The range parameter is an important one because it defines what to actually read. It can be set to all pages, as it is now, or a specific page, like 5 or 12, or a range of pages, say from 3rd to 7th page. We have a one-page document, so we'll set it to all or 1. Now, when we take a look at the result for the Read PDF Text action, we notice that only the text part of the document has been converted. The top two columns of text are present, but the lower half, which is actually an image, is completely ignored. Now that's okay, because there's a different action for reading images inside PDFs, and it's called Read PDF with OCR. As its name suggests, it uses optical character recognition to scan the images inside the PDF document and output all the text as a variable. It is slightly different than its non-OCR sibling in that it requires an OCR engine. You can find available ones by simply searching for OCR in the Activities pane. I have just these two installed, Google and Microsoft, but others such as Abby FineReader can be added too. The engine itself has the usual OCR parameters encountered throughout the app, things like allowed characters, denied characters, language, scale, and so on. Different engines may have different parameters, so make sure to watch the Advanced UI Interactions video if you need a detailed description of how they work. We'll just run with the default settings here. Straight away, you can see that the lower half, the image part of the PDF, is now also converted to text, so that's good. But on closer inspection, the two columns for both the text and the image part of the document have been intertwined together. Now that's because OCR is not yet smart enough to automatically recognize the two-column layout in the document. If a certain layout is a recurring pattern, you will see a bit later how to make a special automation to read it correctly. One thing you should be aware of with OCR technology in general is that its quality quickly degrades with the quality of the source image. As you can see in this example, the end result is highly dependent on font size, font face, and image resolution, things that are not always in your control. So whenever possible, use the non-OCR Read PDF action. It's important to note that both Read PDF actions are self-contained. They don't need other applications open, so they can run in the background. Most other PDF methods you'll see today don't share this quality, so if background operation is important to you, look no further. Okay, the second method for grabbing large and smaller blocks of text is the handy screen scraping tool. Accessed here in the main toolbar, it's actually an interactive wizard that generates the required actions for you. Simply indicate the text elements that you need scraped, and UiPath will show this preview window with a few options. If this is your first encounter with it, here's how it works. This is the preview area showing you the text elements identified inside the selection you just made. This is the current scraping method used, and these two are the other available methods. And this button is used to indicate on the screen another element to scrape. Generally, UiPath detects the best method for your situation. In this case, all three methods work fine, just like we saw before, with only the OCR method reading the image along with the text. When we change the scraping method by clicking its name on the right-hand side, the preview updates accordingly. We'll go with the default full text method and hit continue. In UiPath, connect the newly created sequence to the start node and take a look inside it. Here, we see the generated actions from the screen scraping wizard, the optional attach window, and the get full text action with the output variable set. We can display that variable in a message box or use it elsewhere in the automation. And if in the previous step we would have chosen a different scraping method, like OCR, we would have gotten these actions as a result. Right, so these three techniques can be used to extract larger pieces of text. Next, let's see how to extract a single piece of information out of an entire PDF document, or extract the same data from multiple files with the same layout. First of all, we'll be talking mostly about PDF documents that are in the most common format, native text, which means its elements are directly accessible to UiPath. If you're dealing with scanned documents, you'll see a bit later some image-based techniques that you can use. So, for normal PDFs, there are a few options for getting to the data, the first one being the well-known getText action. Also accessible in the recorder here. Simply point to the element you're interested in, and UiPath will generate the getText action and its output variable for you. Nothing more to it, and we'll display it in a message box. As it is now, this action will only get the value of this specific text element from this specific file. But let's say that you actually want to extract the total value from a series of similar PDF invoices instead of just one file. The getText action, like most UI interactions, uses a selector to identify the correct element and get its value. So as you probably guessed, we'll need to tweak it a bit to extend its scope. The automatic way to do that is by using the attach to live element feature. Simply point to another similar element that should also match the current selector, and UiPath will try to fix the selector for you. In this case, it worked, but since that's not always the case, let's also manually modify it to get an idea of what that entails. A bit of a warning though, we won't go into the general aspects of selectors. I'll just explain this specific example, but I strongly encourage you to watch the selectors video detailing how they work and how to edit and debug them. They are a central part of UI automation, so better understanding them will help in many other situations. So, we'll cancel this to not save the changes and open the selector again. This time, we'll choose to open it in UI Explorer for a better view. The checked containers are the ones that actually make up the selector, so we'll focus on those. The last element has its actual value present, so we'll want to remove that to make it work for other values as well. We'll also remove the title parameter to use other files too, and through some trial and error, we found it's better to use the more unique row name attribute for this item. We'll just copy the selector and paste it over the old one. Now it should work for both files. It got the correct value from this invoice, and also from the other one. Great. There is another method of achieving the same result. That is extracting a fluctuating value from a series of PDF files, or invoices in our case. And that is the anchor base activity. From the start, you'll notice it looks a bit different than other activities. It's made up of two actions because it performs an action in relation to another fixed element, or anchor. A typical anchor is the find element action. We'll use it to pinpoint a fixed element close to our target element, usually its name, or here, grand total. And the action we want to perform is to get the text. While both of these actions have associated selectors, you'll notice they are a bit simpler. The second one just needs to find its way from the anchor element, so it's only the last row of the full selector. It's a bit too specific right now, so we'll replace the number with the wildcard asterisk to accommodate any values. And for the anchor element, same as before, replace the fluctuating part of the file name with an asterisk, and remove this row because it has no unique identifiers. The anchor base also has an optional parameter, the anchor position. It's used to define more clearly where to look for the data. We could leave it as it is, or change it to left because that's where our anchor is in relation to the text. Okay, now this workflow should work on both of these files and any other file with the same structure. The anchor base activity is pretty flexible, which means you can use various actions inside it. For example, you can replace the find element action with a find image. The advantages are that now the structure of the PDF document is not that important anymore. What's important is just that it contains the specified indicated image anywhere in the visible document. Also, you don't have to deal with selectors as much anymore, and because PDF files look the same on all systems, you can use find image without its usual drawbacks. But before indicating the image to look for, it's good practice to set the zoom of the document to actual size, to make sure you have a complete and accurate image. Simply go to View, Zoom, and Actual Size. Then, back in UiPath, click to indicate an image and make a selection around your anchor, or in our case, grand total. And it got it. This method can sometimes be more reliable than the others because it can handle even major structural changes in the document as long as the image and data are present and in the same relationship. Especially since the find image action can handle a reasonable amount of scale variation, and otherwise, PDF documents are pretty stable. Another important thing to note is that these last two methods described require the PDF document to be opened, and the data you're trying to interact with must be visible. Otherwise, it will fail. So make sure you take that into account when building the final automation. And that's pretty much all for this video. These 4 or 5 activities that you've seen should allow you to handle most PDF extractions you'll be faced with. There are a couple more, like find relative element and scrape relative, but I'll let you discover them on your own. Furthermore, if you're dealing a lot with scanned documents, you may want to have a look at our image-based automations video for specifics on handling images. And finally, let's quickly do a recap to make sure everything is settled in. We started with 2 methods for reading larger blocks of text, read PDF text and read PDF with OCR. They're straightforward actions that read entire PDF documents or pages and output a string variable. Then we looked at screen scraping, which is an interactive wizard that is useful for comparing and choosing a scraping method that also generates the actions for you. And for extracting specific text elements, your first option should be the getText activity. Depending on your situation, it may or may not require some selector tweaking, but it's generally a quick and solid technique. Lastly, you experimented with the anchor base activity. It is used to locate a fixed element and perform an action relative to it. It's a very powerful and flexible activity. You can look for an image or element and get the data that is related to it. Now that's it for now. I'll see you later. Bye.